Yeah. So there we go. So this is the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the country. Sorry, I forgot to hit the record button, y'all. You got patient.
Country.
Forget that.
Okay, in case you didn't know, the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme refers to the Minnesota welfare program that was designed to feed hungry children. But as I just told you, at least 78 people have been arrested for ripping it off. The loss to taxpayers in Minnesota stands at about $250 million. A lot of money. It's a big problem in the state of Minnesota, ripping off welfare programs.
No, there's fears up to $1 billion, by the way.
Feed the Future is just one of them. Up until October, the acting U.S. attorney for Minnesota was Joe Thompson. He did an interview with a local news outlet there, and this is what he said.
See, here's the exceed $1 billion. They were saying that they were feeding up to 400 children a day. They were actually feeding maybe 40. And I mean, I'm almost willing to argue this is just my assumption here. Allegedly, I would be willing to say probably those 40 kids were all kids of the people that were running the damn fraud.
Current investigations
Bring the kids by, we'll feed them.
Prosecuted and finished. The scope of fraud in Minnesota government programs could exceed $1 billion. Seems pretty egregious to me. So what's going on? Well, the publication City Journal came out with a big piece on this last week. Here's what they wrote. In many cases, the fraud has allegedly been perpetrated by members of Minnesota's sizable Somali community. Federal counterterrorism sources confirm that millions of dollars in stolen funds have been sent back to Somalia, where they ultimately landed in the hands of the terror group Al-Shabaab. As one confidential source put it, the largest funder of Al-Shabaab is now the Minnesota taxpayer.
Yeah, so it's not just like these scummy people stole money, putting the face on as some kind of a nonprofit organization trying to help people. They were using the money to then fund terrorists in Somalia. And then people wonder why American citizens have issues with people coming into our country that don't assimilate and then take advantage of America's kind heart. So most Americans don't think about, I mean, there's some, listen, again, and I'm talking in general. Yes, there's scummy Americans that will defraud it, whatever. We know this, right? But there are redheaded stepchildren. There are responsibility to throw in jail and feed off taxpayer money until they're done being incarcerated. These are people that come into our country and then take advantage of us and then have to be thrown into a jail system that's already overcrowded and relies on, again, the American taxpayer dollar to feed them 3 square meals a day and get them looked at by the medical facility there, blah, 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 get them glasses if they need it. You know the problem. Like, yeah, that's not our damn responsibility.
Basically, Minnesota came up with a bunch of welfare programs and then a certain community at large. They defrauded it and then funneled the money to a terror group in Somalia, Al-Shabaab. They also write this in City Journal, which I think sums up pretty well why this is happening. Our investigation shows what happens when a tribal mindset meets a bleeding heart bureaucracy. When imported clan loyalties collide with a political class too timid to offend, and when accusations of racism are cynically deployed to shield criminal behavior. The predictable result is graft, which taxpayers left to foot the bill. I think that's fairly accurate. It's bad enough that Congressman Tom Emmer put out...
So again, highlighting the fact that they used, if you don't approve these applications, then you're racist, then, there you go.
This press release yesterday, quote, Minnesota has become the land of 10,000 frauds under Tim Walz now. Reports have uncovered that these stolen taxpayer dollars are funding Al-Shabaab terrorists. This is not only a grave national security concern, it's a slap in the face to the hardworking, law-abiding people of Minnesota. It's also bad enough that the president is now involved. He posted this to Truth Social. Minnesota, under Governor Tim Walz, is a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. I am, as president of the United States, hereby terminating, effective immediately, the temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota. Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of that great state, and billions of dollars are missing. Send them back to where they came from. It's over.
So there you go. And this is like the
80,000.
This is like the spin on it. Oh, they're targeting them. They're targeting these poor people. They're naturalized citizens. Okay, this is what we have to do. You have to be able to bear it, grin and bear it. We listen to the side. This is what I do. I spend my time listening to people make horrible arguments, and then But here's
80,000 Somali Americans call Minnesota home. Soon, upwards of 100 ICE agents could be targeting them living here. Many
Look at the words, targeting them. Are they here illegally? Are they scamming our country? That targeting word.
Understandably nervous,
Loaded.
but according to census data, almost 58% of
Oh, I forgot to do this. Y'all, I'm sorry. I got to put out my link. Let me find it. Okay. Sorry. I got to drop this real quick. Apologize for the pause. There's my link if you want to support what I do.
Somalis living in Minnesota were born in the U.S. That's nearly 6 out of 10. And of those who were born outside the United States, 87% are now naturalized citizens.
We're talking about American.
Now, see, that's the dig I need to do next. Who in the world naturalized 87% of these people? And then this guy right here, they also talk about like their citizens, like how many of them are the children that they had when they got here. That's the problem, right? This birthright citizenship is a problem, in my opinion. It is.
Talking about American citizens.
American citizens.
And so to the extent any federal agency is looking to terrorize the people of our city, the answer is quite simple. We stand with our immigrants. We stand with the Somali community. We stand with Latino people. We stand with anyone that is looking to make Minneapolis their home and are proud.
And remember, these are the same people that also complained when the 50 white South Africans got brought to America. Then there was a problem with
to be here.
I know many families are fearful tonight. They
Good.
are. But I want you to know that
They
the
commit
city
a
of
crime?
Minneapolis stand behind you.
The police say that the ramped-up immigration enforcement started in Minneapolis over the weekend. In fact, yesterday, a Fox 9 crew capturing agents questioning 2 men from Somalia who say they were stopped and had to prove that they were living here legally. Well, soon after our crew arrived, those agents left, prompting Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara to reassure residents they have no role in these actions.
The Minneapolis Police Department
Good.
does not work with federal law enforcement for the purpose of conducting immigration enforcement. We don't provide information to federal immigration authorities. We don't ask people about their immigration status. Our mission is clear: to protect life, to uphold the law, and to maintain safety for all people in our communities.
Now, the owner of a cafe in the Carmel Mall believes that business has been slower than usual the past few days because specifically the rhetoric by President Trump. She says
Our coffee shop is not seeing them out of business. I don't know. I thought they were American citizens. What are they worried about?
that
Right.
people are afraid to go out in public,
Miss
fearing
some?
that they will be stopped by ICE agents. She says that because of the spotlight that's been put on the recent fraud cases here in Minnesota, the president is unfairly painting the entire Somali community with a broad brush.
I don't steal any money. I'm American. I'm a business owner. I'm working. I've been in America 26 years. I've
Been in America 26 years seeking asylum.
my own house. I don't do nothing. So all the Somalians, they're not bad.
Yeah, regardless of someone's immigration status, legal experts are encouraging everyone to make sure they understand their legal rights, and they
There we go. Understand your legal rights. Now, I'm going to go back to the Feeding Our Future, but I'm going to show you why this specifically I know a little something about. By the way, so here's my next one, but I'm going to show you this. This happened in a little town not far from me in 2014, where the State Department decided to drop 1,000 Somalian refugees in Shelbyville. I'm going to let the snippet play. Sorry for the image quality. Lord help the news out there in Shelbyville. Again, I give them a little brief. This was like a decade ago, okay, 13 years ago. It was uploaded by this person, but this says 2012. That was weird. This happened. I was 20. I thought it was 2014. Had to have been 2012 then. But here you go. Listen to what happened here, and I'll fill in part to the story because I know about it very well. Because this little town was wrecked by this.
At first glance, Shelbyville is your typical sleepy southern town. It's nestled in Middle Tennessee, where the walking horse is king. There's Main Street, the local sheriff, a movie theater. It's all very Mayberry, except for one big difference: the recent arrival of hundreds of Somali Muslims. Shelbyville, Tennessee is about an hour's drive from Nashville in the heart of the Bible Belt. This is small town USA.
Very
and like
small.
many Americans, people here knew little about Somalia other than the 1993 Black Hawk Down incident, in which 18 U.S. servicemen were killed while battling Islamic jihadists and warlords in the Somali capital of Mogadishu.
And where did that money go from funding or feeding our future? Huh.
So when hundreds of Somalis began turning up here in Shelbyville, many of them dressed in traditional Islamic garb, locals quickly took notice.
They've had an impact here. Unfortunately, it's not been a good impact.
Local columnist Brian Mosley won an award from the Associated Press for a series of articles he wrote about Shelbyville Somalis.
I found that there was just an enormous culture clash going on here. The Somalis were, according to many of the people I've talked to here, were being very, very rude, inconsiderate, being very demanding. They would go into stores and haggle over prices. Their culture is totally alien to anything that the folks here are used to.
The problems extend.
What does he mean by, so what was happening is these people would walk into these little shops, okay? Shelbyville is small. It is. It's got like one main road coming in. You can get there from like Tullahoma, and another main road, 230, coming from Murfreesboro, where you can hit Shelbyville if you drive straight down that road. But Shelbyville literally is like one main drag. It's similar to kind of like where I live. One main drag, and all the stores are off to the left and right. And there's little side streets that have a little something on them, but it's a small little town, okay? Like it's generational too. Like those farms out there have been farmed by generations. It is the home of the Tennessee Walking Horse. So like it, it is, so it does those shows every year. That's kind of been falling out though, because of how they get them to walk the way that they do. I don't, support, but that's what was happening. They'd walk in there and they try to haggle these shop owners. So you have a lamp for $30. They would come in there and be like, I'll give you 20, or whatever. They're like, no, the price is the price. And then they start arguing with people. Like it was bad.
To local schools where some Somali students won't talk to The problems extend to local schools where some Somali students won't talk to female administrators. There's also been issues.
Okay, so there's that. You heard him say the problems are also in the schools. So they dumped all these Somalian children into these little tiny Shelbyville elementary schools and junior high, whatever. In that culture, they don't respect women. So you would have these women in these schools that have been teachers for 20, 30, 40 years. These older little ladies, little Southern ladies. And they would have these young Somalian students come in, and if they would try, like they did something out of class or whatever, the teacher would come say something to them or trying to give them an assignment. I can't tell you how many times they were spit in the face. Like they would have these boys spit in their face because they were women.
With local law enforcement.
I'm not really sure if that's because of their experiences with the police in their country or if that's just the way their culture is.
Shelbyville is home to about 17,000 people. The town
17,000 people.
Somali population is estimated between 400 and 1,000.
There's 1,000.
Mosley says the Somalis have isolated themselves from the rest of the community.
We're talking about people that have not had any experience with Western civilization. They don't know the language. Things like running water are a miracle to some of these folks.
Abdurazak Hassan is director of the Somali Community Center in nearby Nashville. He says the state
nearby Nashville. Nashville is an hour away from Shelbyville.
Tennessee has no programs to help immigrants integrate into their new surroundings.
They come, and the only thing they can do is to go to work. From work to apartment, they're totally isolated, and there's no interaction between them.
But they isolated themselves. This was horrible for this town.
He says some have even expressed a desire to return to Somalia.
A lot of them face eviction. Like, they put in an apartment complex that costs $600 a month, and they can't get a job that gives them that much money.
So how did so many Somalis end?
Well, let me go ahead and correct Mr. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. What wound up happening is in Shelbyville, Tyson factory. There's a big Tyson factory in Shelbyville. And so what they were busted doing a couple years before this was hiring a lot of illegal immigrants from Mexico in that Tyson factory. So they got busted for that. And then weirdly, strangely enough, not long after that, 1,000 Somalians got dropped into Shelbyville. That's weird. Oh. So then you had all these people that had been working, some of them in this factory for 30-something years, close to retirement age, getting booted, and all of a sudden a Somalian refugee got their job. Oh.
Up in rural Shelbyville, the answer can be complicated. The State Department helps resettle refugees from war-torn countries like Somalia here in the United States. The resettlement project is one part of a taxpayer-funded refugee aid program with $1 billion budget. Immigrants are chosen from UN refugee camps. The selected refugees then undergo a few days of cultural orientation and are on their way to America. The U.S. takes in more refugees than any other country, with a cap of about 80,000 this year.
What we do is we look at the most vulnerable groups of refugees.
Todd Pierce works for the State Department's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration. He says the resettlement program helps America's image in the eyes of the world.
It's one of the best.
Only thing I would like for everybody to take from that, you better make sure you know who works for your State Department. You better make sure you know who works for your resettlement programs. And applying pressure is an understatement. I would ask them exactly what their plans are, especially in your state.
Facets of America is that we're a very generous, hospitable country. And this is something that's been bipartisan for decades now. We've brought people in.
How many of these people in Shelbyville do you think they asked before they did this? I can tell you, none.
Look at Africa, we look at the Middle East, we look at Southeast Asia.
More than 150,000 Somalis now live in the United States, most in larger cities like Minneapolis, Nashville, and Seattle. Gang activity has been a major concern, and according to government reports, at least a dozen young Somali Americans have returned home to join Islamic terrorist groups. The FBI is conducting investigations in several cities with large Somali populations. Pierce says the government tries to shut any potential troublemakers out of the program.
We work closely with Department of Homeland Security to make sure that we vet people coming here, especially.
Well, we know what happened with that vetting process, don't we?
Since 9/11, it's very important.
After a few months in their settlement cities, the refugees are free to move around the country. Somalis in other cities were drawn to Shelbyville by the jobs offered at the local Tyson chicken plant.
There you go.
The plant came under fire from the Justice Department in 2001 for hiring illegal Hispanic immigrants.
They covered it. There you go.
Large influx of Somalis has only added to locals' frustration with the plant and the government.
We've had 3 major industries shut down here. 700 to 800 people have lost their jobs. They're trying to find anything they can, and then, as they see it, the government is shipping people from overseas to come here and take their jobs.
Despite locals' continued complaints about Tyson's hiring practices, the company says it's doing things by the book. Tyson reps say,
how's it doing things by the book? Oh, yeah, because they do this resettlement project. They give them the right to work, and then there you go.
They're simply following federal employment guidelines and that most of their employees are local residents.
Sure
the Tyson plant generated national controversy last fall when it dropped Labor Day as a paid holiday in favor of the Muslim holiday Eid al-Fitr.
Do you hear that? We're back. This is Shelbyville, Tennessee.
Dropped Labor Day as a paid holiday in favor of the Muslim holiday Eid al-Fitr. The decision was later reversed.
But it's all Shelbyvillians that they employ. They employ all locals, mostly locals. But they dropped Labor Day as a paid holiday and turned it into a Muslim holiday. Does that make any sense to anybody?
But longtime local residents say the incident was symbolic of the larger changes taking place in Shelbyville, changes they're coping with as best they can.
We're probably as cultural diversified as any small town in America, I would think. And it's been a lot of change, but I think most people pretty much take it in stride and just keep going along.
From Shelbyville, Tennessee, Eric.
What they didn't cover is how they vandalized churches around there. They vandalized Christian churches, by the way. And I'm just here to let you know that Shelbyville didn't have a vandalize your local church problem until the Somalians got dropped in there, 13 years ago. Yeah. And then they were free to roam the country, as they said. So that happened. That's why this is a little, but here we'll get back to feeding our future. I want to go through some of these to catch up on like exactly how bad this got. I mean, how bad it is. It's bad. Like, it is bad.
The federal trial of Amy Bach, the woman accused of being the ringleader of the Feeding Our Future fraud scandal, continues in Minneapolis today. More witnesses taking the stand, including an FBI agent. Fox 9's Rob Olson has been following this trial for us, and he spoke about what he didn't see on surveillance footage. Rob?
Yeah, this was very interesting and something that was not a part of the trial here last spring that I covered, the first Feeding Our Future trial, and that was FBI surveillance video that was used at 12 sites. Now, I asked why it wasn't involved last year. It was because the people in that trial were involved with other sites. They could only focus on certain ones, and so those weren't.
They were involved in other sites.
Covered in the ones that were involved in the trial last year. But here today, jurors saw side by side documents showing what was claimed and the video showing what the FBI saw.
In December of 2021, the FBI installed a surveillance camera overlooking this building just off Lake Street in Minneapolis. At the time, it was Safari Restaurant, which overall took in $12 million in federal child meal payments through
$12 million in child
Feeding Our Future. Safari's former co-owner, Salim Saeed, is on trial alongside Amy Bach, the Feeding Our Future executive director. Safari claimed to feed 4,000 to 6,000 kids a day. Its invoices and meal counts shown to the jury alongside the video. An FBI agent testifying that an average of 40 people came and went during the 6 weeks it was surveilled. The FBI
40 people came and went in the 6 weeks it was surveilled.
I set up a total of 12 cameras at sites claiming to serve extraordinary numbers of meals. Another was at a deli in St. Paul, also registered by defendant Salim Saeed, which claimed 1,800 meals per day. The video shown
1,800 a day.
The jury showed an average of
23 people. They were claiming 1,800. 23 walked in the door.
3 people a day coming and going. The jury was shown dozens of invoices.
And that's just all the people coming and going, by the way. Were any of those 23 people actually paying customers? Do we know that?
Accounts and emails seized from Feeding Our Future's headquarters in St. Anthony. Some showed links to websites that randomly generated names and ages to create rosters of children who were served meals. Many were signed or sent by Amy Bach, who's charged with wire fraud, along with bribery for the alleged kickbacks that she received. Her defense attorney tried to raise doubt when it cross-examined the FBI agent that they didn't see the back entrance where it's possible meals left packed in trucks for delivery.
With the big no trespassing sign.
He pushed back, insisting they'd still see congestion. To that volume, he said, I would say it would not make any sense.
But Bach's defense attorney continues to try to cast some doubt here with the jury that Amy Bach didn't know what was going on. He contended in his opening statements that it was all these site operators that were lying to her by sending her these meal claims. And
well, let's get into that little portion right here. Tracking the money. Well, that sounds interesting.
Tracking the money of the Feeding Our Future fraud. That is the focus once again during trial with Amy Bach, the alleged ringleader of this scheme. Fox 9's Rob Olson is live for us. So Rob, bring us up to speed. What happened in court today?
Well, I got to tell you right off the bat here, the final prosecution witness is now on the stand after the end here of 4 weeks of this trial. It's an FBI forensic accountant who've been going over purchases that co-defendant Salim Saeed made, expensive cars and properties, and tracking that money that it directly came from these federal.
And you know what I think? I think Tim Walz, the good man that he is, the kind heart that he has, he cares so much about the Minnesotans. I believe that those houses that were purchased using this money should be turned into mental health facilities. That's what I think. That a couple of them, turn a couple of them into drug rehabs. You know, maybe we could do that.
Meal funds that were meant to feed children. But the bulk of the day was another FBI account.
Oh, and while you're at it, I should give all y'all, like, if y'all want to, it sounds silly, and I mean this facetiously, but the homework assignment, I've noticed too, I don't know if y'all have, but if you ever pull up Google, like maps, just take a minute or two out of your day and take that Google Maps thing and kind of zoom in on around where you live. And I want y'all to tell me if you see any weird businesses stuck out in the middle of woods. You know, just a business out there where nothing is.
Going over the scope of the fraud and really trying to show that Amy Bach knew about it, knew where it came from, knew how it was being used.
A Feeding Our Future meal site opened in this Lake Street building in April of 2020. At the time, it was the Safari Restaurant.
Oh, April of 2020. What was going on in April of 2020?
It was one of 4 meal sites along Lake Street. An FBI forensic accountant testified how that number grew into the next year. Eventually, 21 meal sites along a 1.8-mile stretch of Lake Street, all sponsored by Feeding Our Future. Along a 1.8-mile stretch of Lake Street.
1.8-mile stretch. But this was a concerted effort. This town is just amazing. Amazing migrants that are just fleeing war-torn Somalia. They just are here because they want to work and assimilate.
By Feeding Our Future. The accountant testified that those 21 meal sites were paid a total of $34 million in federal reimbursements, and at one point together claimed to serve 59,000 meals, breakfast and lunch, each day. That the total enrollment for Minneapolis public schools was 33,000.
The total enrollment of schools was this, and each of these sites were saying they were serving 60,000 people a day, when there was only 33,000 kids in the whole area. 21 of these sites are serving 60,000 people a day when there's 33,000 kids.
Students. It appears that Feeding Our Future is feeding all of MPS students in just that 1.8-mile stretch.
That's not even right. Because every site, it was saying every site was showing the same numbers, and there's 21 sites.
Testified the FBI accountant. Amy Bach ran Feeding Our Future, and this testimony was meant to show how the fraud grew under her sponsorship. Other evidence meant to show that she knew about it and even participated. Spreadsheets found on Bach's laptop show that she tracked the massive sums paid to meal sites, along with how much she kept as an administrative fee. Evidence as well of 3 Feeding Our Future employees who were on the nonprofit's payroll, but also running meal sites. That Bach would have been well aware of how much they were getting. Upwards of $20 million went to these 3 Feeding Our Future employees alone, the accountant was asked. Yes. And who was their boss? Amy Bach.
Yeah. This is details. I want you to pay attention. The first 2 I showed you from 9 months, 8 months. This is from 3 years ago. So this is how long a lot of this stuff has took to work through the system, all this other stuff. Yeah.
Nearly 50 people are now charged in a $250 million fraud scheme. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kelsey Carlson.
And I'm Amy Hawker. This money was from federal COVID-19 funding. It was supposed to feed youth in need, but the charges say that didn't happen. Rob Olson joins us live from Minneapolis. Rob, this just seems unbelievable.
Yeah, and going on for quite a long time. You know, Feeding Our Future.
Going on for quite a long time.
First got the state's attention in the summer and fall of 2020 when they were claiming just large numbers of children being fed under this federal funding. Well,
so he said first came in our attention in 2020. So this report's done in 2022. But Tim Walz was on it, y'all. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but Tim Walz, his finger's on the beat of the pulse of his state.
They tried to stop the funds. Feeding Our Future sued, claiming discrimination. A judge ordered them to continue being funded.
Listen, right here.
Children being fed under this.
Here's the race card. Let me bump this up, got a little low. Make sure y'all can hear that.
Federal funding. Well, they tried to stop the funds. Feeding Our Future sued, claiming discrimination. A judge ordered them to continue being funded. It then went to the federal authorities, and now after a long investigation, these massive indictments.
Feeding Our Future is at the core of this fraud.
Feeding Our Future operated out of this Twin Cities office building as a nonprofit sponsor for free meal sites of the federal child nutrition program. And when COVID hit, accused now of becoming the center of the largest pandemic fraud in the U.S.
They were running a scheme, not a child nutrition program.
U.S. Attorney Andy Lugar announcing federal indictments against 47
Look at all those names. Seems legit.
people, including Feeding Our Future founder Amy Bach. Charges include conspiracy, wire fraud, money laundering, and illegal kickbacks. Accused of, under relaxed COVID regulations, opening more than 200 free meal sites across Minnesota. Each
200.
Site claiming to serve between 2,000 and 6,000 children every day. The U.S. Attorney says they submitted fake rosters.
Now, there's no way that these people could vote illegally either. I mean, what are y'all talking about? I don't even know how that's a possibility. Oh, crazy people out there in chat. What are y'all talking about? I don't know.
Filled with children who don't exist.
Only about 1 or 2% of the names in most of these.
Omar said the New York Times had an editorial back in 2010 saying Somalians were ripping off Hennepin County Medical Center. Nothing was done. Why does that not
Sites
shock you?
matched the school rosters. These children were simply invented.
The alleged fraud adding up to $250 million. Defendants buying homes in Minnesota, resort properties in Turkey and Kenya.
They were buying, listen, it's all good. They were buying resort properties in Turkey and Kenya.
Luxury vehicles and jewelry. So far, $50 million has been recovered.
The subjects in this case weren't interested in feeding our future. They were interested in feeding their own gluttony.
Now, the indictments are broken up into 6 different indictments because the federal authorities here alleged there were 6 different groups that had created these meal sites, all of them sponsored by Feeding Our Future. They were kind of the middleman between the federal funding and the meal sites. So they're the ones that they were reporting to. So again, a massive alleged fraud scheme here. It was expected that 3 people were already going to be pleading guilty to charges here yet this afternoon. Now, the federal authorities here, the Department of Justice says there are 3 strike teams now looking at fraud cases, pandemic-related fraud cases across the U.S. I asked if this...
While we were all being yeeted off of platforms, that's what was happening in Minnesota, by the way. Then here's some of the testimony started coming out around here. Here's the autism. We'll get into that a little bit. I hope y'all find this informative. I know I'm kind of going back in time, but this just happened. This is one town in Minnesota. Imagine how much this takes place across our country, especially when you're talking about sanctuary cities and these states. Look what's happened with California, with the whole NGOs there. Oh, we're helping people on drugs. We're giving them free needles and injection sites, and we're building homeless shelters nobody's using. Like, it's just...
Witnesses sort of telling the same stories, and that's part of the government here. Their case or strategy is to hear about it not just from a couple of people, but from everybody that they can bring in. In this case, another bartender who was a supposed Feeding Our Future board member and another meal site operator who pled guilty, and he directly tied Amy Bach to telling him how to cheat and to give her money back.
Mohammed Hussein is yet another witness who pled
Mohammed Hussein. What a name to pick when you come in country.
guilty to Feeding Our Future fraud, working with his wife Lula Lee, who testified 2 weeks ago at her restaurant in Faribault and said Feeding Our Future employees came there to recruit them. Testified those employees put Amy Bach on a FaceTime call. Testified it was Amy Bach who instructed them to lie. She was saying if you're doing 1,000 meals every day, you're going to get more money. You're going to get big check. Asked if they ever did, not even close. No, he answered. We never feed 1,000 kids a meal, ever. Hussein later added his own Faribault nonprofit to the program and said they got checks from feeding.
Where you dig into this is it makes you wonder if they're claiming they fed 1,000 children today, the invoices and the amount of food that they bought, where they would have to show, I would think, even though we know this big scam, right? Where would be the invoices for the food that they're purchasing for these people? So that was all a lie. So tie that back to the food distributor that's allowing them. Are they getting kickbacks? Did they say, just give me an invoice where I've ordered 1,000 hot dogs and, 500 slices of 500 chicken nuggets or whatever, and then you don't really sell it to us, but I'll give you, $10,000 if you make me an invoice that says it?
Our future for $200,000 to $250,000 a month. When those
cameras should have been inside this courtroom. This whole getting around it because those federal offenses or their federal law enforcement's brought into it. It's a federal crime or whatever. I'd miss me with all that. As American taxpayers, we should be allowed to see every court proceeding, period. I don't care if it's federal, state, local, whatever. We are paying for the buildings. We're paying for the judges. We're paying for the microphones. We're paying a lot of times for the defense attorney. That's ironic. Then we're paying for the prosecutors most of the time in these cases. Or no, every time. What am I talking about? Every time, because it's prosecuted by the state or the government. Yeah, we pay for that. So we'd like cameras in there. We want to see these court proceedings.
Were delivered each month. The Feeding Our Future employee would again put Bach on a FaceTime call so she could see a $30,000 cash kickback that Hussein says she demanded. Bach's attorney says the government cannot prove that those alleged FaceTime calls with Amy Bach ever happened. Apple and the phone companies don't keep FaceTime call records. Also on the stand, another St. Paul bartender.
This dude comes into it too. He's like, what?
Knew Bach socially and was also listed as a Feeding Our Future board member, but testified that he really wasn't. John Senkler said, she told me she just needed names to start the organization and was going to dissolve the board once it got going. He was shown minutes of meetings he didn't attend or even know about. One said he made a motion about a management plan review update. Asked if he made that motion, he replied, I don't even know what a motion is. But no.
Now, back to Mohammed Hussein again here for a second. He testified under cross-examination that he'd only talked to Amy Bach in person one time, that he never talked to her on the phone, never exchanged any email with her. It was just these alleged FaceTime calls, which again, the defense attorney says the government cannot prove actually occurred. Now, there's no court on Friday, so this will pick up again Monday, and the prosecution.
I'm going to get into there's the autism fraud stuff. It's about feeding kids. Here we go with autism.
Today we saw the first federal charges stemming from a massive fraud investigation into Minnesota autism centers and a connection to Feeding Our Future. Fox 9's Corin Hoggard live for us at the federal courthouse in Minneapolis. So Corin, what can you tell us about this overlap between these two massive
same guy? They lose a lot of weight.
Fraud cases.
Amy, Asha Farhan Hassan is the 76th Feeding Our Future defendant, but she's the first Autism Centers investigation defendant. And if you listen to the interim U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson or even Hassan's attorney, she's probably not going to be the last. So the case against her basically says that she started Smart Therapy Centers and registered them as an autism service provider. And she had a couple of secret partners there as well. And what they did was they went out and they grabbed families and got kids and signed them up and then made sure all of those kids got autism diagnoses. Then they could bill Medicaid for services, and they did just that. They billed the maximum amount for all of those services, but they really provided almost none. In fact, they were hiring unqualified, uneducated, untrained family members and friends to allegedly.
And this is something that nobody talks about either. Imagine all the data that we use to look at autism diagnoses. Like, we know that now they say, what is it, 1 in 36 children or something it is, or something like that, are diagnosed with some form of autism. But then you take this into account. You take into account, you have this town in Minnesota that's using autism centers as a fraud. They're getting children diagnosed with autism so they can fraud taxpayers into funding this, right? So how many of those children that were diagnosed with having autism that didn't, it was just to run this scan, are now calculated inside of this data, is this spreadsheet saying this is how many children inside of America have autism? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, this just this has wider consequences than just this as well.
Provide these services. Meanwhile, they're paying kickbacks to the parents of these kids. In fact, sometimes they had to compete with other supposed autism centers to keep.
That's how bad it got, that now you have these autism centers competing with how much kickbacks they're going to give parents to use their children. So they're competing for which one's going to be able to use the kid to defraud taxpayers. Like, it's I'll give you $200 if you let me use your kid's name. Well, this autism center said they'd give me $250. Well, this one said they'd give me $275. Like, like, what is an auctioneer?
These kids. So in all, they billed about $14 million for autism services. And while all that's going on, they started to join Feeding Our Future, and they billed for feeding children. As many as 1,200 kids allegedly being fed every single day of the week. That ended up being a total of almost $500,000 more billed to the government.
All right. So, Corin, you talked with Hassan's attorney about this case today, right? So, there's something about wire.
Well, when you have an auto pen president, you know, it helps you defraud the country.
Fraud in here. There's a charge. Am I reading this right that they're planning to fight that?
No, not likely. Actually, Ryan Pasiga is her defense attorney, and he told me she's probably going to plead guilty in the next few weeks. He said she really kind of initially intended to do good here, but like a lot of other people who get involved in these programs, she got wrapped up, she saw loopholes, and she jumped through them. He called this basically a perfect storm, though. He said, you know, a lot of business owners are willing to take advantage, just general public, the community willing to take advantage, and a huge...
What's massively made up in that community? I wonder if that lady at the coffee shop has any family members that had children that were paid to be put on a list.
Huge failure in government oversight.
I don't think that the people who are administering these government programs, whether it's the food program or the autism program or the housing stabilization program or whatever you're going to have next, are doing a good job of training people.
Oh, now really? We're going to blame it on the training? Is that a joke?
I should note that the government, the state of Minnesota, has changed the way that they fund these programs and investigate these programs, but that is a fairly recent development. And while that's happening, the feds now have a fraud total that's pushing $300 million. They say that's probably going to go up quite a bit because they're expecting a lot more defendants in this autism center's investigation, as well as one into the housing stabilization services.
Yeah, so then they used autism. I want to get into some of this testimony as well. Oh, there's a look at them. Those great Americans that, you know, yeah, they had to send a juror home. Here you go.
Yet another twist in the Feeding Our Future trial. 2 jurors dismissed in 2 days, all over a bag of cash dropped off, meant to encourage a non-guilty verdict.
And it comes as a critical time.
No, did y'all hear that?
The jury deliberates. The
2 jurors had to be kicked off because they had bags of cash dropped at the front door. That again. Bags of cash.
In 2 days, all over a bag of cash dropped off, meant to encourage a non-guilty verdict.
And it comes as a critical time now in the trial. The jury deliberates the accusations of this massive, widespread fraud scheme. Our Fox 9's Rob Olson has been on top of this trial from the start. And Rob, has anything like this happened in Minnesota before? This is like something you'd expect out of a mob trial out east.
No, this is something you probably should expect out of Somalia, where they think you just show up at somebody's house, you give them enough money, and then they do what you want them to do.
Yeah, the answer to the people I've talked to is no. The former chief judge of Hennepin County, Kevin Burke, today is communicating with him. He'd never heard of this happening in Minnesota. He said there's some historical examples of it, certainly in some mob cases for sure. But he said, in essence, it's not even fair to call it rare. It's less than rare that this happens. But this morning, a second juror dismissed simply because they'd heard about the bribery attempt that led to the dismissal of a juror yesterday.
Those bags of cash left for a juror Sunday night, $120,000 in hundreds, 50s, and 20s, are now evidence.
So I'm going to let that sink in too. These people, while all this is going on, still have access to $120,000 in cash. I guess they didn't seize their assets.
A new federal investigation of attempted bribery and jury tampering. The juror targeted in the attempt, a 23-year-old woman, was dismissed Monday morning and replaced by an alternate. The remaining jurors immediately sequestered to stop further attempts and from them hearing about this, which would be considered prejudicial in their deliberations. But then Tuesday morning, a 25-year-old juror admitted hearing of the attempted bribe from a family member and was also dismissed and replaced. The 7 defendants collectively accused of stealing nearly $50 million in federal money were taken into custody
Take a gander at these amazing Americans.
Monday and booked, since only they and their lawyers would know juror identities. At the end of a trial that began in late April with 24 days of testimony and evidence, this is a twist that is almost entirely unheard of. Kevin Burke, the former Hennepin County Chief Judge, told me I've never heard of an instance of an attempted bribe of a juror in Minnesota. Judge Jeremy Fogel, the former director.
Well, let's just be honest here. It's probably because people haven't done it this brazenly, but I'm sure there's many a times P. Diddy that has tried to bribe people to, to offer up a verdict that's favorable to them.
Of the Federal Judicial Center in Washington, D.C., with 30 years on the bench, told me this situation never arose in any of my jury trials, nor did I hear.
I think, Pug, the argument is like them saying that they'd heard about it. They would have to dismiss him because they would think it might prejudice the case, that they were trying to be bought off, meaning that they were guilty. They know they're guilty. That's why they're giving people sacks full of cash. I think that would probably be the argument that a defense or a prosecutor could use to say, or a judge can use to dismiss a juror. You know what I mean?
Of anything similar from my colleagues. And former U.S. Attorney for Minnesota, Tom Heffelfinger, this is a very unusual and dangerous situation and will be fully investigated by federal authorities. I would expect federal charges in the future. And the jury's still deliberating on.
And I think that's the case, right? That's why I'm a full advocate for saying that if you're coming to our country and you're I don't care if you've been naturalized or whatever, if you come in here and say that, you're this upstanding person and you're going to love our country and follow our laws and and then you get wrapped up in something like this, I'm on board 100% to say you no longer can live in our country. You can take your butt right back to the place where, guess what? You were sending all these Americans cash to go back over to a country you say you fled because you didn't want to live there, but you don't mind funding it? You don't mind funding terrorists there? I thought you were fleeing the terrorist. Oh, so you're funding the terrorist. That's an immediate deportation in my book. And this whole thing about, well, they've got kids here. The kids can go with them. Send the kids right on with them. The argument that they have kids here now, that's why this naturalized citizen stuff, when you have an anchor baby, should be gone too.
No verdict today. They got the case yesterday. They were due to wrap up today at about 5 o'clock, so right around now. No verdict yet, but
you'll get into like some of this her testimony right here. She was cross-examined and I was stupid. I didn't say like these things. We were just hunting money, but it's not good. Oh, yeah. Isn't it amazing how these people have this moral compass when they're caught? Oh, it wasn't the right thing to do. 4 years
insisted at times she did question if massive claims were
exhibited this half hour, the cross-examination of alleged Feeding Our Future ringleader Amy Bach.
Our Rob Olson was inside the courtroom as prosecutors took over the questioning of Bach, who faces several charges of fraud and bribery.
How are you feeling? Amy Bach acknowledged the government has proven fraud among meal sites and vendors that she sponsored under Feeding Our Future, but that it was others.
And if I go in looking like a homeless person, maybe they'll feel like I didn't just, scam Minnesotans out of, millions of dollars.
Not her. Insisted at times she did question if massive claims were accurate. They were all saying yes, she said, because as the government has been able to show, they were all in it.
They were all working together.
She finished her direct questioning from her defense attorney by denying she'd conspired or committed wire fraud or solicited bribes. That a witness who testified 2 weeks ago that Bach demanded a huge kickback. Bach said she'd never had a meeting with that person. I never asked anyone for anything. And $1.5 million, it's absurd, like it doesn't even make sense. But most of Thursday in federal court, she was aggressively cross-examined by an assistant U.S. attorney. She agreed that there were fraudulent documents that she submitted, such as meal.
The number of meals, look at the number of meals received and prepared. Amazing how it's always 3,000. They didn't even bother to say 2,897. They didn't go to 3,010. It was all 3,000 across the board. Number of firsts served to children. Meal counts. Oh, look, they changed the number up a little bit here. 2,995. We'll go to 98 today, 96 that day. Like, requesting meals of food is gone. What?
She submitted, such as meal counts that claimed thousands.
Then, let me just make sure I'm not lying to y'all, because I want to see. This is the week of February the 1st of 2021. Right there, it says right here, the 6,000. What did it say here? October 25th of 2020, it was 3,000. Minnesota had a baby freaking boom. Okay? A baby boom. Because in 4 months, they jumped to 6,000. Did y'all see that?
Such as meal counts that claimed
6,000. They still have this funny number of first served to children. Let's just mess with the numbers a couple off.
Thousands of kids served a day, but repeatedly put the blame on others. I trusted that the staff had reviewed. Said that when she did send fraudulent claims to the state, she didn't know that her responsibility was to ensure the forms she submitted.
She didn't know her responsibility was to make sure the forms were properly filled out. But it wasn't her responsibility to make sure that that form that was properly filled out actually reflected the number of the actual children they were feeding. I just wanted to make sure all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. That was my job.
Were properly filled out, not that they weren't fraudulent. Yes, I signed it, and there was no deliberate misrepresentation. Said that when meal sites submitted rosters filled with names that were not real, well, she testified she had no way to know that. When pushed about food money transferred to her boyfriend, used to buy jewelry and vacations.
Food money transferred to her boyfriend who was out there used to LC and Ilhan Omar. What is it with these boyfriends? What is up with this?
And rent expensive cars. She said, I was an unwilling passenger in a Lamborghini. Yes.
I was an unwilling passenger in a Lamborghini.
Yeah, Amy Bach facing a lot of questions, and she had answers for everything and stayed pretty calm on the stand as she did it. She's not done either. She'll be back on the stand Friday to finish cross-examination. There'll probably be some redirect.
She had an answer for everything. Well, didn't she? Yeah, here's one.
Right, now to the very latest on the Feeding Our Future fraud scandal. The federal trial continues for the.
This is from months ago. This stuff was happening. You saw that record from 2020. 2020. Tim Walz is such a
alleged ringleader.
On the stand today, a woman who operated one of the meal sites and pled guilty for her role in the scheme. Fox 9's Rob Olson is live with more. Rob, how'd it go?
Well, you know, in many ways, proving the fraud in this case is the easy part, and that is because of the number of guilty pleas. There were about a dozen or so just in the 2 weeks right before this trial began. The harder part is...
That means save my ass, and I will turn state's evidence to squeal on whoever, as long as you give me a lesser charge. Thank you.
Connecting the dots here, the concrete evidence that Amy Bach knew about it. But on the stand today, a woman who pled guilty about a year and a half ago who said she and the other Feeding Our Future leaders had to know.
It was in this building on East Lake Street in Minneapolis where Kamar Hassan opened SNS Catering in 2018.
What's up with the Hassan?
In 2020, she enrolled her business, which is no longer here, as a meal site under Feeding Our Future, and soon claimed to feed 2,500 kids every day.
She claims she fed 2,500 kids a day.
Here, jurors were shown her submitted meal counts. Is it accurate, she was asked by the prosecutor. No.
Yes.
Why did you sign it? I was not thinking straight at the time, she said.
Okay.
We were just hunting money, but it's not good.
There's a true, we were just hunting money. Had a brain fart, but I was hunting money.
Kamar Hassan pled guilty in 2023 and testified now in hopes of a lighter sentence, but clarified on the stand that there's no deal in place. Her catering company on Lake Street took in $6.8 million as a meal site alone and then became a
$6.8 million. This is happening while all these other businesses across the country were told to shut down. Remember, Minnesota, some of the most right stripping states in our in the country over COVID. But these people were apparently allowed to stay open. There was no problem with these businesses.
a supplier to other meal sites. Several were in the very same building operated by her business partner. With food, Hassan admitted she did not supply. But with that food money, she testified, she then bought the building for $5 million. In total court documents.
Okay, there right there. She used that money, $5 million, to buy the building. What should happen to that building? What do you think should happen to that building? I don't know. Maybe a youth center? Maybe a drug rehab? Maybe a battered woman site? Hell, at this rate, 2025, a battered men's site.
Documents show she and her co-conspirators got more than $16.5 million through Feeding Our Future. Often sobbing on the witness stand, Hassan said, "I feel shame and sorry for what I..."
No, you don't. If you felt shame and sorry, you'd have never done it. This whole, I apologize, it was bad. But she didn't care when she spent that $5 million in that building.
Jurors also saw this video posted by Somali TV Minnesota of a party in Hassan's building for Amy Bach, the Feeding Our Future executive director, who's now on trial for the fraud. Hassan said they were celebrating all the money. Bach's defense attorney questioned how
They were celebrating all the money.
Bach could have known
Who
about
paid for that party? Huh.
the fraud, since Hassan rarely dealt with Bach directly. But Hassan said Feeding Our Future leaders had to know. They can see, she said, they have a brain.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, that's what happened.
All right, now it's the very latest.
Yeah, that's what took place. I'll get into a little bit more of this, and then I'll go get. But this is it. Just went on and on. Their opening statements. Look, we can make more fraud. Did Amy know what you were showing? Yes, sir. Did you know about fraud? Yes, sir. Like all these people, then they admits to trying to bribe a juror. Here you go.
News at 6.
A woman accused of trying to bribe a juror in one of the Feeding Our Future trials has now accepted a plea deal. That is our top story tonight at 6. I'm Kelsey Carlson.
And I'm Randy Meyer. LaDon Muhammad Ali appeared in federal court today.
Muhammad Ali? Why would you disgrace Muhammad Ali anyway?
To accept responsibility for her role in the attempted bribe. And that's where we find Fox 9's Courtney Godfrey tonight. Courtney, some new details emerging in court today. Tell us about them.
Yeah, that's right, Randy. LaDon Muhammad Ali crying before the judge today as the U.S. Attorney's Office laid out the potential prison sentence she could face for her role in all this. Meanwhile, we're learning that she actually hatched a plan to steal some of that cash before ultimately dropping it off at that.
So the lady used to drop off the bribe money was going to steal some of the bribe. It sounds perfect. Listen, I don't know if y'all agree with me or not. I bet you a lot of you do. Immediately, all of their assets should be froze. Immediately, everything that they own inside this country should be auctioned off and sold to try and get as much of that money back as they possibly can. And these people should be immediately deported. They could spend 20 years in an American jail that we have to fund, we have to pay for. No, thank you. I wonder how many Americans would be like, you know what, just deport them and never allow them back in the country, not even to visit. I don't want to hear it. Every bit of their assets should be liquidated and they should be deported, because I don't think Americans should foot the bill for holding them up in a jail for 10 years so we can then again feed them.
House. Miss Ali, any comment?
Yeah.
What happened to the rest of the money?
Where did the $80,000 go?
Can you please put the microphone away?
Okay. The 31-year-old is one of 5 people charged with trying to bribe a juror in one of the Feeding Our Future cases.
5 people.
The trial involved 7 people connected to the nonprofit, accused of stealing millions from COVID relief funds meant to feed children in need. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, Ali delivered.
But they sent it with a pretty car with butterflies, apparently.
A bag containing $120,000 cash to the juror's home with a promise of more if the defendants were acquitted. After originally pleading not guilty to multiple felony charges, Ali agreed to a plea deal, which...
So there were many of them that got sent around trying to bribe people. Yeah, everybody was open. Look at this. Everybody was opening a site. Everybody was claiming a high number of meal counts. There was money flowing around from everywhere.
The Feeding Our Frenzy trial continues in federal court, and today the prosecution's star witness took the stand.
This is a person with intimate knowledge of what is the largest alleged pandemic-era scheme in the country. Rob Olson was in the courtroom for all of this today. And so, Rob, what did the jury hear?
Well, they heard a man say that he engaged in this alleged fraud by operating a fraudulent meal site and earned over $1 million that way. But he said he was also at the center of it, working at Feeding Our Future, one of the two nonprofits that are part of this entire alleged scheme here, saying that he worked with others to help try to get their invoices submitted and approved, and submitting names full of fake names.
And if they were reported, guess what happened to them? They were racist. The people that tried to expose all this, I don't know, they were racist. Just so y'all know. That's what happened. Do you get the picture? I think I probably covered enough. There's your glorified thing. He began to claim 1,200 kids per day at Feeding Our Future's employees' directions. Like, it just goes, but this has been going on forever. 5.6 million total, 2020 and 2021. 3 homes. There we go again, buying homes in other countries. Like, it is just, you can go through this and look at, like, this guy again. This is the dude that said he was listed. Hey, what the heck are you talking about?
A huge story this week, the trial of the woman accused of leading the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme.
Now, her name is Amy Bach, and today the witness testimony, it all continued. And our Rob Olson explains for us that one witness had some very surprising testimony.
Ben Strayberg, seen here after his rather surprising testimony.
Weird how they used the white people as like listed as the presidents and stuff. Amy was a white lady. This is a white dude.
He was listed as the president of Feeding Our Future's board of directors. Yeah, big shoes, he joked, when shown the nonprofit's org chart with his name at the top. He said he was never on its board, and I had no idea that I was any part of that. He said that he met Amy Bach, the Feeding Our Future founder, through mutual friends when he bartended in St. Paul. He was shown documents filled out when he allegedly joined her board, said he'd never seen them, that it was not his signature. One listed his qualifications in managing food service. He laughed and said, I serve drinks. Was shown board minutes with his name, and one noted that he'd made a motion.
Yeah, or y'all Mox had send them back to their donkey carts and bombardot slums, bombardot slums. I don't know what that word is. Do it, mind. So would y'all be on board? What would y'all feel like? Do you feel like we should throw them in prison for several years, or do you think they should be deported? Like, what do y'all think? Like, because again, there's I understand too, the argument is they should lose their freedom. They should be incarcerated. They should serve jail time for what they've done. But then at the other side of that, where I kind of come from, is that, yeah, and there's, again, us American taxpayers that will have to fund all that. That will have to pay for them to stay in jail. You know what I mean? And then God only knows the jail or prison they're going to. It's Tim Walz's state. Oh, the jail's overcrowded. We had to let out the nonviolent, people in prison to make room for the violent criminals. You'll get that excuse. Let's say people serve 6 months in jail on a 10-year sentence. Well, we had to free up space. No, I don't know.
To open more meal sites. He testified he was never.
I'm with you, Cindy. Like the deport, but fine. Oh, let me put that out there again. I forgot to drop it earlier, but I remembered earlier, and I'm gonna remember right now. I'm gonna drop my donation link if y'all want to support what I do. Christmas is a coming. I will tell you right now, probably spent on getting my great niece. She got out of the hospital, by the way, the other yesterday. She'd been in there since Thanksgiving. God love her. She had like pneumonia. It was a horrible thing, but that's what I probably do is make sure I get them a Christmas present. Would be great. But yeah, so
those meetings, and
that's the whole thing. I believe that, yes, all their assets should be sold. They should be
in fact, knew nothing about them. Bach is charged with wire fraud and bribery counts for her alleged role in the $250 million federal meal fraud. The prosecution says she orchestrated adding more than 200 meals.
Mark said him and Amy got drunk, knocked boots, and developed a plan. Helped the Somalians. What could go wrong? GC Paint says sending them Australia, the original penal colony. Oh my God.
sites, filed false claims of those sites, serving millions of meals, is accused of demanding kickbacks to stay involved. Also on the stand was a woman who testified that Amy Bach had recruited her to join the fraud and coached her to falsify claims. Lula Lee ran a restaurant.
Trying to falsify. Oh, thanks, Sonny. Yeah, I'm happy too. Thank you, Kinsley. Yeah, she's a sweet little thing. They just stay sick up there, down there in Georgia. I don't know what's going on. Try to ask my nephew, is it the elements? Is something in the air? I don't know, but I'm just glad she's okay now.
In Faribault and pled guilty.
I don't know if she's completely out of the woods, but
in 2023 for her role in the fraud, said she was recruited to become a meal provider in 2020, was pushed by Bach to fill out claims that she knew were impossible at a kitchen her size. Everything is a lie. They know that, she testified. She know, Amy. They taught me how to do this.
You know, that witness, Lula Ali, also got emotional on the stand several times, saying that she was sorry for her role in this. Now, again, she had a restaurant. Her husband had a meal site. Together, they both pled guilty a couple of years ago. Now, she insisted that Amy Bach knew what was going on, had coached her through it, but under cross-examination, Bach's defense.
This keeps popping up. I'm going to do this all.
Well, Somalis have lived in Minnesota for more than 30 years now. Tens of thousands came as refugees of a civil war in their homeland, and their populations in this state is estimated at about 107,000.
And our Corin Hoggard dug into the history with a Somali scholar and found out about the Somali trajectory and how it's pretty similar to what we've seen with other immigrant communities.
Oh, terrible, tragic.
Well, yes, let's show the clips of the war-torn country that they're sending their money back to fund apparently the terrorist stuff. Let's not forget that. We'll insert that right here by me. They're also sending money to fund apparently the people that do this. There's no scared of them.
Somalia's civil war forced 3.8 million people to flee the country since 1991, according to refugee assistance agencies. Almost all of them expected it to be temporary.
Everyone in Somalia was just exactly saying, I'm just going to run away with the cup of tea in my hand today, but I'm going to be back tomorrow.
Tomorrow hasn't come for more than 30 years.
Tomorrow, 30 years. Tomorrow was 29 years, 364 days ago. So I think tomorrow is overdue.
But at least 24,000 Somali refugees found new homes in Minnesota, with help from Catholic Charities and Lutheran Social Service.
And don't even get me started on this crap. I think the deep dive into these charities that use God as a shield to say we're good people, we're going to do this righteous, and then the stuff that's going on there.
They initially,
I believe 100% that the churches have been corrupted. A lot of them.
Came for night shift jobs at a poultry processing plant. Then whatever.
Oh, they came from night shift jobs at a poultry process. I wonder what that was.
They initially came for night shift jobs at a poultry processing plant. Then whatever unskilled employment they could find.
Like the hospitality, like the car rental agencies, like the parking lots, jobs that no one would take.
36% of the current Somali population in Minnesota still lives below the poverty.
Still, after 30 years, 36 below, what does that say to you? If they're below the poverty line, what do you think they're getting? Food stamps, Medicaid, all that stuff that taxpayers fund, when you've got 36% of them still living, and I've heard the numbers are over 40%, so I don't know where they're getting their number. It says the source is U.S. Census plus the Minnesota Compass. Okay.
Level. That number is much lower among younger generations and mirrors the progress of Minnesota's Hmong population. They had a 31% poverty rate in 2011, more than 3 decades after first arriving. But right now, they're in line with the state's rate of about 9%. Nearly all Somalis in Minnesota are American citizens. Author Ahmed Ismail Yusuf says they're integrating into American society at a normal pace, but some of them still dream of the home they left behind.
Where you were raised.
Dream, then go home and fight for your country. And then they said they're all American citizens. How did they get naturalized? How did they become American citizens? Who signed off on that paper?
It's always going to be a part of you. So because you want to see it, you want to remember it.
On the subject of fraud, Yusuf says his community is both ashamed and upset, both at the people who committed crimes and at the perception that they're all to blame for it. In Minneapolis, Corin Hoggard, Fox 9.
Well, Fox 9 will continue to follow this story here in the Twin
Ice coming it down.
Cities. You'll find every development, update from officials, and
good. Then what's this? Oh, uncovers massive foreign trucker illegal license operation in Minnesota. So if it's not Feed Your Future, if it's not them stealing from kind-hearted people that, oh yes, let's feed the children, from people that defrauded by millions. Now it's got this. Remember the trucker thing that we watched a few weeks back? A third of Minnesotans' non-domiciled commercial driver license reviewed in a recent audit by the Department of Transportation were illegally issued. A third of them. Her review was conducted by the DOT's Federal Motor Carriers Safety Administration as part of the Trump administration's crackdown on unqualified non-citizen endangering Americans on the roads. The state has 30 days to come to compliance and revoke the illegally issued CDLs or risk losing a $30.4 million in federal highway funding. Again, there's no federal highway funding. They're talking about Americans funding. I'm going to start every time it says government funding or federal funding. I want to place the word Americans funding. Officials wrote that Minnesota now has two choices going forward: follow the law or lose funding. Our audit exposed yet another example of foreigners taking advantage of Minnesota's services under Governor Walz's watch. Minnesota's failed to follow the law and illegally doled out trucking licenses to unsafe and unqualified non-citizens. Thought they were American citizens. Endangering American families on the road. Can't even read the road signs or speak English enough to be able to be questioned by law enforcement, but they're safe enough to drive around in these, 75,000 pound vehicles with you on the road. The department will withhold funding from Minnesota, continues this reckless behavior, but Tim Walz is on it. Tim Walz is on it, y'all. The letter from FMCSA sent to Walz and Minnesota Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Johnson outlined audits finding detailing how the state gave non-domiciled CDLs license whose lawful presence in the United States had expired, whose lawful presence in the United States had not been verified, and who were prohibited from obtaining such a license in the first place. The DOT is now demanding that Minnesota execute a corrective course of action, including a pause on issuance of non-domiciled CDLs, and identified what's going on in Minnesota. Minnesota is openly and blatantly defying our rules, plain and simple. Under the Trump administration, states have two choices: meet our standards or face the consequences. You think this would happen under Kamala? Ilhan Omar? Sounds about right. The latest review of Minnesota is part of the DOT's overall nationwide audit of CDLs after foreign truckers were accused of causing deadly crashes in several states. Federal and state authorities arrested nearly 250 foreign commercial truck drivers in November alone. Click on that. 250 foreign CDL truck drivers. DHS warned cartel exploitation threatens Homeland Security. Wonder if any of these people are maybe trucking around things that they shouldn't be trucking around either. If they're willing to do this, wonder what they're willing to put in the back of those trucks. Federal and state authorities, this came out on the 29th, by the way, arrested nearly 250 foreign commercial truck drivers in November alone, warning that cartel operatives and foreign nationals are exploiting America's commercial driver's license system to infiltrate freight corridors and endanger national security. You mean to tell me that they can't even figure out whether or not somebody should have a license or not? A commercial license at that? Apprehension of nearly 250 drivers in Arizona, Indiana, Wyoming, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, even New York City and California, or even New York and California. The federally led operation followed orders from President Trump and Transportation Secretary Duffy to remove these often dangerous drivers from American highways. Many of the drivers were found to be illegally present. They're also illegals. So they're illegals. They're in the country illegally, and they were issued a CDL. Holy hell. In Arizona, Border Patrol agents arrested a Uzbekistani national operating a commercial vehicle that resulted in a crash. In Indiana, DHS confirmed 146 truck drivers were detained after a fatal crash involving a foreign CDL holder sparked outrage. Officials said cartel networks, what's the cartel doing? Were exploiting loopholes in the CDL system to move contraband. There we go. And operatives, what's an operative? More illegals. Remember all the truckloads we heard from Holman about that little boy dying in the back of that semi when they pulled it over and found all the illegals stashed in the back of the semi? In Wyoming, Operation Safe Haul resulted, this is 2 days. Is that a 2-day operation or 2 days that they did it? Resulted in 40 arrests and dozens of trucks being pulled off the road for safety violations, including inoperable brakes in a semi, and falsified documents. ICE officials warned that foreign nationals driving a 40-ton rig without proper vetting pose a direct homeland security threat. Do you think? What's the most dangerous thing you can think about on the highways? What's the most dangerous vehicle? You better daggum well make sure the person behind that steering wheel is qualified, knows what they're doing. At least read the road signs. In Texas, 31 drivers were arrested along I-40, Interstate 40 in Wheeler County, one county, most of whom were carrying California-issued CDLs, despite lacking lawful residency. New York, Border Patrol agents detained 30 drivers near Buffalo. More minor but high-profile arrests in Kansas and California included suspects tied to terrorism investigations. Oh, that's great. Oh, what is this? Had to forfeit my CDL because refused to breathalyzer tube that still burns my tailpipe. That's I can't hardly read that. Since I was 18 years old. Ugh. The crackdown is part of President Trump's border deportation agenda, which aims to purge up to 200,000 foreign CDL holders from the trucking industry. Homeland Security argues that a cartel network and hostile actors could weaponize heavy trucks or use them to smuggle contraband. You think? Another non-domicile CDL wrecked and tried to flee after intentionally hitting another woman's truck. He's like asking on the translator, like if he can send me money to my bank account. You know, he's 100% illegal. U.S. American truck drivers are doing everything we can. This is from the 22nd.
Oh my God, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm on the side of the road. Why am I on the side of the road at 7 o'clock in the morning? Because the truck driver just hit me. He just hit me intentionally. He came into my lane and hit me, and then he fled. He fled. I had to chase him for miles. I had to chase him for fucking miles for him to finally pull over when he realizes he can't outrun me. He pulls over, and he doesn't speak a word of English. Not one word of English. Not one. Not a single word of English. Got to use the translator app. And I'm like, no, you're going to wait for the cops because I called 911 because there was a hit and run. There was a hit and run. And he's like asking on the translator, like if he can send me money to my bank account. Do we have to? You know, he's 100% illegal. I haven't even looked at the damage on the truck right now because I can't, man. I can't. I had to chase him down. I'm just trying to do my job, America. I'm trying to do my job so that you have food, so that you have clothing, so you have medicine, so you have cars, so you have everything that you need to live. Us American truck drivers are doing everything we can. We risk our lives every day. These people come here from God knows where, and they put our lives in danger so that you have the shit that you need. I'm just waiting for the cops to show up. Waiting for the cops.
Yeah, truck drivers is this thankless job. Like it is to the point. I was, like I was married to a long haul flatbed truck driver, and you get a real glimpse into that world when you live, it's part of your life. And takes a certain type of person to be able to, number one, just drive a semi with, tens of thousands of weight behind you, the amount of pressure used on their brakes, the ability to climb mountains, the buttholes that, are just as regular people out in cars don't realize pulling right over in front of a truck. They can't just slam on their brakes. It takes them forever to get up speed. Like, you learn a lot about truck driving ethics whenever you're married to one. You realize, what kind of person it takes to do that. So to any truck driver out there, I got a glimpse into your lives, and it is a thankless job. But without truck drivers, Walmarts would be empty. Every store would be empty. I just can't imagine. And anyway, an example of the potential national security threat revealed itself to be the arrest of Kansas November 9th of a Uzbek national who is a member of a known terrorist organization. ICE agents arrested 31-year-old illegal Akbar Bazarov as he operated a commercial vehicle with a Pennsylvania-issued CDL. We're seeing a trend here. The driver wanted in his home country of Uzbekistan for terrorist activities entered the U.S. illegally in February of 2023 and was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. So he just got here in February 2023. Not only was Akbar Bakarov a wanted terrorist released into the country by the Biden administration, but he was now given a commercial driver's license by Governor Shapiro's Pennsylvania Department of Homeland Security's Tricia McLaughlin of the Department of Homeland Security said in a statement. This should go without saying, but terrorists, illegal aliens, should not be operating 18-wheelers on American highways. Common sense should take over. Then ICE just arrested Ahmed Nene, an illegal alien from Mauritania, who was released into our country by the Biden administration. He had a commercial driver's license from Michigan, employed by Dearborn-based trucking company. Do we see a trend? Whitmore is giving out CDLs to foreigners. There he is. A few days later, Breitbart Texas reported the arrest of another Uzbek illegal alien operating commercial. It's almost like they know where to go. It's almost like they're being told what state they need to flee to in order to be able to work here, in one of these positions. I don't know. Border Patrol agents arrested the illegal alien truck driver after he crashed into another vehicle on Interstate 10 near Quartzsite, Arizona. Officials did not disclose his name. Why not? But revealed they found him carrying 5 different licenses from New York and Ohio. Sounds on the up and up. He entered the U.S. illegally again. Here we go, April of 2023. Did they all get out a memo? During the peak of Biden's border crisis, in late November, Texas Governor Abbott announced the arrest of 31 illegal alien truck drivers. ICE, our 287G partner, arrested 70 illegal aliens from 15 countries in a 2-day operation to make the highways safer. Arrests include 36 criminal aliens and 34 violated state law for operating a semi-truck commercial line. Yeah, this is happening. There's your Tim Waltz. Remember, started out, Kerr. The crackdown on illegal aliens operating commercial vehicles. Yuma Sector Border Patrol agents arrested a 25-year-old Indian national at an immigration checkpoint after discovering his New York-issued commercial license. Blythe Station Border Patrol agents arrested a man who illegally entered the U.S. in 2023 again. Arrested into the U.S. Biden administration. Agents arrested a illegal alien truck driver for inadmissibly and entered him into deportation proceedings. The crackdown is part of President Trump's border deportation agenda. We already read that part. Critics warn the raids could disrupt supply chains. Okay. So we just, you know what? It doesn't matter they can't speak a word in English. It doesn't matter they can't read the road signs. It doesn't matter they abide by our laws. They're getting you your toilet paper and your pickles. Body cam footage of legal alien trucker who killed the 3 people getting pulled over in New Mexico. He can barely speak English. The officer could barely understand him. Yeah, this was the one that went viral.
This is the one that you'll take care of within 30 days, okay? And then just choose one of those options right there. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. And this one right here is your inspection, okay? Okay. Thank you, sir. Drive safely, all right? Thank you. Have a good one, sir.
Sorry, sir. This my first time.
No worries. I feel bad being the first guy to write you a ticket, but, you know, I try to help you out.
They said in my no license in the ticket.
What's that?
They said the ticket in the no my credit.
I'm sorry. I guess I don't understand what
Maybe in this my ticket in the my license. How many years?
Don't quote me on this. I think a ticket will stay anywhere from 5 to 7 years, depending on what state you're from. Anywhere for that long, okay? Okay. All right. Have a good one.
I can't. It's just so infuriating to see that stuff. It just is. And then to get away from that, like I saw this today. We probably. I'll play this for you.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief.
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also saying
I wouldn't be proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, you know, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Walz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with, go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution. All she does is complain about this country. Without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now. So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon, I hope. But what Somalia, what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable. And a lot of it starts with the governor. A lot of it starts with Barack Hussein Obama, because that's when people started coming in. And you have to have people come in that are going to love our country, cherish our country. They want to kiss our country goodnight. They talk about our country. We want them to pray for our country. This is not the people living in Minnesota. And she's a disaster. She should not be, and her friends shouldn't be allowed. Frankly, they shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople, okay?
They should be allowed to be congresspeople. So then I'm going to jump over. Probably won't have the whole opportunity to watch this, but this also came under my radar. Was talking about Somalia, and then I saw this.
It's a bit of a cliche
in Sudan. Because apparently Sudan's collapsing. Give this person
to say, why doesn't the mainstream media care about this country or that war? But if there is any truly ignored war on Earth, it's the one going on in Sudan right now. Since 2023, Sudan has been suffering from complete state breakdown, and owing to its massive population of over 50 million people, making the current crisis not just the making of another failed state, but the largest humanitarian crisis on Earth. In 2025, it was the country with the highest number of people facing famine, of internal refugees, and the most mass death. Beating out, not to use another cliche, these wars you might be a little more familiar with. To fully understand the crisis, you need to understand how Sudan got to this point. But first, let me just...
Yeah, maybe I'll do this now because I only got like 8 minutes, and this is probably worth the watch. So let's just take a tour down. Who's a good? I like sometimes checking in with like Andy. He's really good at kind of covering some of the stuff that's happening. What here is Brothers' book Unmasked, which is really good. But let's see what Andy has to say with stuff that's happening. Following a sting of anti-ICE terror attacks incited by leftists, Democrats, and liberal media, a man came to a federal building in L.A. with 7 homemade explosive devices. He was caught after, managing to hurl 2 inside. Oh, that's great. Let's see. Federal prosecutors in California have charged 54-year-old man on Monday after he allegedly hurled multiple Molotov cocktails into a downtown federal building in an attack targeting immigration officials. Oh, wow. A criminal complaint unsealed Tuesday names the suspect as the Los Angeles resident Jose Francisco Jovel. He has been charged with attempted malicious damage to federal property. Is that an insurrection? Is that trying to overthrow? What do we call that on the left? I forget. According to prosecutors on Monday, Jovel allegedly first set fire to his own apartment in Koreatown before arriving at the... Why are we allowing that stuff? I don't like the fact that we call places like Koreatown or Chinatown. This is America. I don't like... Why are we naming stuff other countries' names? Like, I thought the whole purpose was to assimilate into America. Why are we calling it Koreatown? At the federal building in downtown, he was recorded on CCTV footage carrying multiple bags. He then allegedly threw a Molotov cocktail through an open sliding door marked for employees. A second incendiary device was thrown minutes later through the building's public entrance. I'm sorry, who's the violent people? Who's the violent people in our country? Because the last I heard, if you listen to mainstream media, it was all these, Trump supporters. That's what I heard. The devices failed to ignite, and there were no injuries. I don't think it's because he wasn't trying to. Agents found a lighter and at least 5 additional Molotov-style bottles in Jovel's possession and arrested him. He allegedly shouted, "You're separating families," and characterized his actions as a terrorist attack. This case exemplifies how misleading the hateful rhetoric against federal law enforcement can and does result in violence. Well, don't tell anybody at CNN or MSNBC any of that. Don't tell Maxine Waters or Chuck Schumer or Swalwell or Schiff or any of those other mouthpieces, any of that. The federal building that was attacked is the same building that open border rioters and Mexican nationals violently attacked in the summer. The riots featured arson attacks, federal law enforcement being assaulted by rioters hurling concrete chunks while waving Mexican flags. If convicted, he faces up to 20 years in a federal prison. We'll see. I'll hold my breath for that to happen. This attack follows a string of violent and deadly incidents against federal immigration enforcement facilities nationwide. In July, the Prairieland Immigration Facility near Fort Worth was shot up by North Texas Antifa cell. At least 5 members of Antifa group have pled guilty in a federal court providing material support to terrorists. They admitted to carrying out the attack, which resulted in an officer being shot in the neck for the Antifa ideology. September, Joshua Juan fired sniper rounds at an ICE facility in Dallas, but failed to hit federal agents as an intended target and instead shot 3 migrants. Then he shot himself before he could be apprehended. He left behind the anti-ICE messages on the rifle cartridges. What's all these people writing messages on their cartridges and their bullets and their guns too? That's a thing, just so you know. Well, there's that. Then here's this. Wow, a Swedish mass killer named Rickard Nilsson has become a leftist journalist after being released from prison. He served less than 20 years for slaughtering 3 strangers in an ambush. He was seen in a far-left protest in Stockholm November the 30th. Oh, okay. There's your leftist.
Rickard Nilsson.
Jaha, mördaren. Mördaren?
Ja, jag har suttit inne för det en gång i tiden. Det
stämmer. Men hur många mördare? Var det 3 personer? Eller?
Just nu jobbar jag som journalist och nyhetschef.
Men det var inte det jag undrade.
Jag jobbar för flera tidningar så...
din tid i fängelset, har du liksom ändrat politisk uppfattning eller har du alltid haft samma liksom vänsterinriktning?
Jag har alltid haft samma. Jag tror på alla människors lika värde.
I believe in equity for all people except for the 3 that I, ended the life of, but whatever. Yep, solidarity. These are Democrat socialists. Solidarity with Aaron. Our solidarity must be with the entire working class. Trans liberation now. Reader's context. Aaron Browning was suspended from Scottish Greens and removed as a candidate after allegations of sexual misconduct. Allegations include sending sexual explicit messages to several women when being a 13-year-old and trying to kiss a 13-year-old without her consent. Like, keep running them. Keep running them. Another blow to Portland Nordstrom Rack in downtown, which has been operating since 1986, has announced it will be shutting down. It operates out of a large building taking up a city block in the center of downtown. Routine theft and homelessness issues are likely behind the closure. Of course there are. Oh, Lord help us. An Australian leftist journalist, queer activist, is accused by Australian authorities of leading an international satanic child sex abuse ring. I'm going to have to look into this. Hold on to that one. Landon Germanato Mills is among 4 charged after raids in Sydney. He runs the Underground Media Network publication. Oh, that's a link. Okay, I've bookmarked that. Yeah, this looks like an amazing person. Oh, Lord help us. Always will be Aboriginal land. Well, these people have lost their absolute minds. Okay, Kenner, Louisiana. Leftist activists mobilized near New Orleans to try and stop fair labor from carrying out immigration-related operations because, look at this lady in yellow. Just walking right up in there like, look at this.
Right? I want everyone on that curb right there. All right? That's a safe distance for us.
Look at her. The crazy people, man.
You're conducting enforcement operations.
It looks like these people might have been trying to get the heck out of Dodge with their little pod there. They're living. Look at this. Look, they got a motor home attached to the apartment, whatever. Like, what, they living in the pod too? Like, what's going on? Yeah, anyway. Okay, and then all the defendants who've been federally charged in Minneapolis for allegedly defrauding millions of U.S. government through fake and inflated housing reimbursement program. Okay, this is another thing happening. So I'll dig into this too. This is about the housing situation, defrauding about the how. It gets worse and worse. But anyway, so let me stop this. That is my time, and it is time for me to turn it over. Let me stop